natural resources.
Good morning and welcome to this edition of the Live Tax Lounge, which is specifically in regard to the URA Green Guard Awareness Campaign. My name is Josephine Kabiesiza. I handle stakeholder relations at Uganda Revenue Authority, and today I'll be the moderator. And before we get into the nitty-gritties, we want to announce a special offer today. We have free tickets up for grabs, and the instructions will be shared during the show. So please tune in. Please ask anyone you know who's a fan or anyone who's not yet on call to join, and be ready to listen so that we can announce so that when we announce the criteria, you are ready to dive in and take your shot. So thank you for joining us, and we'll get straight into the point. The topic today is environmentally sustainable and revenue generating activities. We want to figure out if there's a way in which being cautious about environmental matters can also help us in terms of generating revenue as individuals, as youth, and as the government as well. And like we say, this is part of the URA Green Guard campaign, which is an initiative by URA to align to government's call to be more environmentally responsible and to also consider equal opportunities and matters to do with climate change. So we'll get into the discussion, but before that, let's invite the panelists to introduce themselves, and we shall start with the Gen Z.
You know that word really, when you speak of the Gen Z, is what have happened in Kenya. It scares some other people because of the energy that they have. Okay, I'm by the names Dickens Ochero. I always tell people that that the name Ochero is our African traditional name, but the Dickens one is a borrowed one. But the African is one that we really embrace so much. That's why I like when people call us Mr. Twist with his name. So I work for Youth Go Green. That's partnership and institutional development. And also I'm a climate activist. We have been working with the Ministry of Water, with the Commissioner here in restoration. We're doing a lot of activity, especially during the week, Uganda Water and Environmental Week, where we have a lot of them, because we have a partnership with Ministry of Water, that every year we have something that we do. Then also, again, I'm also a TV host for a climate show.
Right.
It's a climate and environmental show, which is always every Wednesday from 8 to 9 at UCTV, that's Uganda Catholic Television. Because it's an initiative that they saw that the energy of the Gen Z was too much, so we need to take it somewhere so that at least we preserve it. So briefly, that's my biography and what I do currently. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you can see the energy that the Gen Z is bringing to this discussion. Yeah, and in Uganda, Gen Zs are good people. They have not yet done what the Kenyans did, but or maybe they're actually doing it, but in a more responsible way, as you have proven. So that's a great thing. So, and the next panelist.
Yes, good morning, Josephine. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, our viewers. My name is Issa Katwesige. I work as Assistant Commissioner for Forestry in the Ministry of Water and Environment, and I'm in charge of planning and development for forestry. Of course, the ministry is responsible for the management and oversight regulatory functions on water and environment resources within the country, formulate laws, draft policies, guide implementation, promote the sector, do resource mobilization, but then also mainstream the sector into other sectors of the economy. So I'm happy to be here and looking forward to an engaging conversation today.
We're happy to have you too.
Thank you.
And our final panelists, are you also Gen Z? Are you millennial? Where do you land? Well, Issa, we won't ask.
Okay, thank you for having me, Josephine. My name is Chukonoa.
Yes.
I work with the Division of Business Policy, and the Department of Domestic Tax
Okay.
in URA, the Revenue Authority. And majorly what we do, we propose amendments. We receive proposals for amendments. We study amendments. We provide guidance, and both to internal and external stakeholders.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
All right. Earlier, Isam wondered what we would consider external and internal stakeholders with regard to tax. But for URA's case, the staff are internal and everyone else is external.
Okay.
So even at some point, I think the staff become external because we also pay tax.
Yes.
So I guess it's a confusing situation. Yeah, but let's get into our topic today. Like I said, the topic today is environmentally sustainable and revenue generating practices. We want to see if it's possible for these two to intersect. Yeah, and as you can see, we have an interesting panel. We have URA one side, and then we have Gen Z, and then we have
The government.
The government. That's what that's kind of the segmentation right now. But jokes aside, I think we can start with Youth Go Green again.
Okay.
If you can tell us about what you're doing in the space of empowering youth in climate action.
Okay, thank you, Josephine, for that question. Youth Go Green is a registered entity, a non-governmental organization, non-profit making, and we started operation in 2017 with the alarming call that we are seeing within the country, especially the incidents of Bududa landslide. That the news had to trend all over newspapers, all over. Then then we took a look at the news. I was still at school. Then I asked myself, how can the soil bury human beings when we are alive, people are strong and old? What's it really? So then we came up with this initiative. It was like we started as a greening initiative, but we looked at a broader picture that as the youth, as the young people, how can we reach out to, especially government, reach out to also these people at the grassroots? You know, let me tell you that climate conversation and environmental conversation is a very boring conversation to the Gen Zs, to the youth. That's why most of them, they just read things which happens on news. When things just pack up, like the Chichezi, there's someone, hey, people have died in Chichezi. What has killed? That's when now it prompts them to go to to read, to know what has happened, when now a disaster has already occurred. So when we started this movement, we started mobilizing youth from all over the country and registered these young people from Karamoja, from Gulu, from Barara. We went to Chiruhura, Mbale, and we had to even host the first African climate movement. What we convinced, we were working with the Right Honorable Kadaga. By then he was still the Speaker of the Parliament, who is our patron now, current patron. So when we interest her, and he saw that our initiative was something good, bringing this energy, at least in something that the government is trying to embrace, is trying to interest everyone in this conversation. So when we registered this, it was a very big movement that we started from. We moved around the city. We went to Mbale. It was advocating for a friendly environment. Because when you're talking about environment, you're not talking about the Gen Zs. We are talking about the old person there down in the village. We are talking about the rich, the poor. We are talking about those ones who are black, white, or yellow, or red. We don't, because the issue of environment doesn't respect your profession. That you have a PhD, you have a master's, you studied climate science or what. No, it's something that everyone should interest themselves in this conversation. Because when you're talking about environment, you're talking about the issue, you're talking about life, you're talking about protecting your property, you're talking about the generation that's coming after you that we need to safeguard. So when we reach out, we had to interest this youth, and we started what's called advocacy class, advocating, training, interesting these young people from the grassroots, especially looking at the primary level, the nursery. How can we bring them on board? Like most times that we look at only the youth as institutional level. Like at universities, we think that, oh, maybe those ones who are at universities, at campus, they understand this. Without letting the children first also understand this conversation. Because when you give a child water at the end of the day, at home, where will he dump this rubbish or this bottle? If you don't show the child, you don't teach. Because I have seen a session, I'll also interest someone, even how this bottle, we have trained with our youth and they're handing from it. We started reaching out to primary schools, teaching them, training them. That's why we have people like Vanessa Nakate, who are right now the climate champions. We have Grace Stewart, Nisima. At 11, she started the movement at 6 years. Right now that she's 11 years, she's doing even incredible work. Interesting the young ones, even in renewable energy. They are making a briquettes. And one day, maybe if you could give us time, I will bring and you see their work. These are children who are 10 years, 8 years, 9, 11 years, but they have already started making briquettes in their community. And they move to the community, they invite mothers and they say, please, look, if we can do this, why can't you embrace this initiative? And you see that even their site in Chira that they have started, the community, they have been impacted, that everyone, they have learned about even briquettes making in the community. And not only that, last year they went to Kotido to visit the children, and they started teaching them how can we protect the environment. Because when people hear Karamoja, the word which runs in their mind is desert area. But you see that Karamoja is a very fertile ground. The commissioner can bear me witness, because there are projects which they are doing there. They have constructed dams, and you find that these dams, we have not given it to the community to own it, the young people to own it, whereby the young people say that sometimes for them, they don't know what's happening at the district level. You don't blame the government, like for instance, the commissioners who are here at the office, but they have also protocol to follow, like the district local government, they have also a committee. But you find that this committee, what are they doing at the grassroots? Are they also building up a system like how right now the president has come up with the PDM, the Paris Development Model? We're building a system from the grassroots level up to up, that it will make the work of commissioner very easy. The commissioner doesn't need to go to Kotido, or doesn't need to go to Abim to say that he needs to implement a project. What he will always sit at his office is to wait for a report that see that the project has been implemented. But now, since that, we started what's called a Youth and Children Climate Academy, where this academy, we train these children in advocacy. We train them in renewable energy. How do you apply your knowledge? Because sometimes parents also, we look at that, oh, my child is too young, cannot do anything. Oh, he should first finish maybe campus. I need to interest my child to go and study medicine, to become a doctor. I need to interest my child to be maybe to work at URA like Josephine when you're looking. No, there is something that this child can contribute to the economy of, because you see that we have the wetlands. Why are people destroying the wetlands? Because we have not preached to them the message about wetland. They have not understood. Let the Gen Zs know that these wetlands are very resourceful to us. They attract tourists. The birds that they go and shoot and they kill, they don't know that there is someone there in UK is traveling and is spending a lot of money to come to Uganda to watch what? These birds. And he's spending a lot of money. But because a Gen Z doesn't know what's happening, what's the use of wetland, I need to kill these birds. And because I'm hungry, I'm a hunter and I've seen a bird. Why can't I kill this bird and I eat him? And for us in northern Uganda, they know us of eating birds. Yes, because certain times condition doesn't spare you. you need to use the opportunity which is available. What? To live. As the Gen Z, they look for available opportunity. But right now that I thank God that you with your campaign, the Green Guard campaign, you've started bringing us on board, because we have the number. But the number needs information. The number needs resources. The number needs you to interest them. So please, that we are calling upon you, what can you do as a young person? Because our movement is in primary schools, is in secondary schools, and even in tertiary institution. And that's the reason whenever, like, you bear me witness, the commissioner, when we organize for the SDG run, the Sustainable Development Goal run, which is happening next week on Sunday, you find that the young people are coming. They are there. They are there, support the initiative. They are there. They are very passionate. But the problem that we have, which is limiting these young people into these spaces, is resources, which is climate, the youth climate finance, which we have been preaching this. Even I think that is one of the issues that they're tabling it at COP 29 in Baku. The resources. How can we get the resources, Josephine? We have URA. We have Bank of Uganda. Ministry of Water, for them, they wait from what the government has planned. And they will allocate and they say, oh, according to our budget, this is ABCD. So we sat with NEMA as an agency that works with it. Yeah, we say that, do you know that whereas the Gen Z, we see that as youth go green, we see that we can get resources for this youth, to support this youth. URA, especially, always charge people with fines. Where do these fines go? Can it go maybe to a consolidated, maybe let me say that a port that we know that is it under Bank of Uganda or Ministry of Finance, or maybe goes to water. Then water looks at a youth, like maybe Youth Go Green, who are doing something which is impacting the community. And we say, we have this consolidated fund. Please, we can support with your innovation that you people, we are seeing that you're doing this and this. We have very many things that really we are seeing that is happening in this country. I don't know why we are going to, certain times we debate with all these, these superpowers there, and some of them I heard that they have not attended even COP. Why? I don't know if they are feared or the discussion or what. I don't know why. We need to first build a local-based system here of getting this small money, which we have within Asia, to build with our economy. Because Singapore movement did not start with the government. It started with the young people, with Angelica, who started interesting the Gen Zs, the young people by that time, to come up with innovation. That the government looked at it and said, wow, this is what these guys are doing. We are here to support the movement. And Singapore, from then, 10 years back, that Uganda was more than Singapore. Singapore never remained the same because the young people interested themselves in this innovation. So Josephine, just briefly, I know that I'll come back for other submission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you can match that energy that we're receiving. But he mentioned something about finances. He has hinted a lot that you've been working together. So maybe we can explore that from your perspective, from Ministry of Water and Environment. I know you mentioned something when we were preparing for this about climate proofing the budgets. And he has also talked about resources.
Yes.
So I guess you can now tell us more about that.
Yes, thank you, Josephine, and thank you for the invite. I also want to congratulate you on this innovation because I think while we were preparing for the show, that's when I got educated about the existence of this TV. Though I follow URA on their socials for obvious reasons, but I'm glad that it's actually happening, and spaces that you're going into where you meet us along the way. And I also like the topic, environmentally sustainable and revenue generating practices.
Yeah.
I think when we talk of sustainability, it's an issue of that we need to educate the masses that it's something that you don't do for anyone else. We speak in terms of, if it's self-regulating, like he's mentioned, that yes, empowerment and community awareness is the most sure way and the cheapest way to have our jobs simplified for us, because if someone is self-regulating, it means they're either going to be legal, they're going to be environmentally conscious, going to do all these things, and you don't have to police them. But of course, that comes with continuous engagement. It comes with awareness creation. It comes with continuous preaching. It's not something that happens overnight. Just like the Lord's Prayer that has been here for over 2000, but then recited every day. It's something that we need to continuously do. And the beauty with the involvement of the young people is that, yes, that's what sustains us. What we do, if they take it up at a younger age, it means that their children will be much smarter. And then their children's children will be much better than us. And that's the entire principle of sustainability. So it applies in business, it applies in society, the way we live, it applies in forestry, because there is that saying that emitia mito yajigumiza ekibira in Uganda, meaning that you know, that's the only way to continuously move on. But coming back to your question regarding climate proofing budgets, it goes back to 2021 when a government passed the Climate Change Act. And in that, Section 30 called for, of that act called for the immediate amendment of the Public Finance Act, Finance Management Act, to address issues of, like ideally to have, to require the Minister of Water and Environment, or the Minister responsible for climate change, together with the chair of the National Planning Authority, to issue certificate, working with the chair of the NPA, National Planning Authority, to issue certificates that certify that you know, the budget framework papers have been prepared with consideration for adequate financing for climate change related interventions or climate change related measures and actions. And ideally, since that time, like the ministry has a responsibility to review all these budgets to make sure that for all institutions, to make sure that you know, it has been that the budgets actually self-sustaining, are environmentally or climate change sustaining, or they are climate proof, meaning that they've been prepared with that in mind. And of course, how does that happen? It means that at least there has to be a budget allocated for climate-related issues. So at the moment, it's mandatory on government, especially through the Public Finance Management Act, and that's why you see that every year the Ministry of Water and Environment, through the Climate Change Department, has to issue that certificate. And it's something that is based on continuous improvement. It's like, yeah, of course, it's recent. So every year is proving to be better than the previous year. And it calls for some of those incentives, and probably why you're hosting us here and on this campaign probably also speaks to the same. Ideally, probably this is an activity that is budgeted for, because you're paying for data, you're paying, you're being paid as staff to, you know, to make sure that, you know, you're doing this. And of course, looking at that, we also appreciate the opportunity that you invite us to cause more awareness, because when it comes to airtime or the airplay to run these messages, it's not cheap. So you use every available opportunity that is there to reach out to as many people as possible. So currently, while it's happening for government, of course, we also have the National Environment Act. There is a section 69 on payments for ecosystem services, whereby like we have that responsibility and mandate to work with the general public, with institutions, with individuals, to make sure that, you know, they have in place measures that ensure sustainability of payments for the ecosystem services that we are getting from the environment. It could be the fresh air. Of course, in some circles, you've heard that Uganda has like its biggest export is its weather and climate, in terms of it being conducive for human living. And of course, for people who have traveled, you'll find the humidity in certain places. Place might be very beautiful, but then the strong wind that embraces your face, the heat and the warmth. For Uganda, it's in other countries, you need what you have on Kampala Road. You have to access it through air conditioned rooms. So that is something that at the moment that for entities, we're glad that environmental sustainability is taking root in entities, whereas it's now mandatory in government spheres. But then for the external players, it's more of, it's still a CSR. And with corporate social responsibility, it's you may not. But of course, eventually as the regulations come out, it's going to be mandatory that we do this. Of course, it's very important that we are taking away from the environment, but then not giving back as much. So ideally, at some point, we need that push. So whereas it's not so sustainable to police the sector, it's important that people embrace these practices well in advance, so that the transition is so simple, it's so easy, and we move on. Of course, as a sector, we are guided by ideally the international frameworks that we've domesticated through our own laws. For example, we have, he talked of the SDG run. Of course, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, the global, they are domesticated within Uganda and coordinated under the Office of the Prime Minister. But for us, I mean, when you look at issues of sustainability and responsible living, I can only mention about maybe 2 or 3 of these SDGs. There is SDG 12, which is about responsible production and consumption. And responsible production and consumption still comes down to what we can do. Having legal enterprises to start with, because ideally there is much that URA can do in that space, because for responsible production and consumption, where URA comes in very important is the aspect of that for you to be legal as a business entity in this country, you need a tax identification number, for example. And with that, you can do so much. Just providing that tax identification number, it shouldn't be obvious. I think as URA, you shouldn't be excited about someone trying to register a business and asking for a TIN, because it comes with responsibilities. What industry are you going to invest in? What sector are you going into? Are you legal there? Do you have the raw materials? Do you have what it takes to operate a business in that sphere, such that someone doesn't just come as in, after all, I have a TIN, and on the side of URA, what is legal is actually, as long as you have a TIN and you're paying tax, then it's like you're sanitizing all the illegalities. Whether this is going to be set up in a wetland, whether someone is cutting down a forest, whether someone is actually thriving on stolen wood. We have some factories that rely so much on forest products. So it's very important that for the most part, like our sector can actually be enforced more on the other side, where it comes to responsible consumption and production, that you actually help to put in place these measures. Like you need to have that as part of the criteria. We're doing much on our side. This is something that has been mainstreamed into the environment and social impact assessments, like export clearance. That actually you need these things before you go there. So as we try to reach out, we find that yes, with just one tool, the tax identification number, you can do so much for environmental sustainability, for responsible production, for responsible consumption. Then, of course, SDG 13, which is climate action, still comes into doing activities that help with mitigation and then also adaptation. Of course, it's important to mitigate such that, you prevent before it happens. But of course, where you can't, you adapt, and you have these measures that help with you to cope, say, for example, with heat, to enable cooling, to allow for wind breaks, reduce on calamities like lightning and floods and, such things. And then, of course, still looking at the heating, the beautification. Of course, as you do this, it comes with, you have access to a number of these nature-based solutions, where just even, planting trees along an avenue, it helps with reducing on that. And still speaks to SDG 11, which is on sustainable and livable cities. ideally, because the projection we have is that by the year 2050, over 75% of the global population will be living in cities and urban areas, but not because people are coming to the city. I mean, because the cities are going to the villages.
Yeah.
So how we embrace that to make sure that we maintain our heritage, the biodiversity and everything that we've lived with since time immemorial. It's very important for us to, to embrace these things before they actually embrace us or they hit us unaware. And the last one is on life on water, which is SDG 15, rather life on land. Life on land still speaks to biodiversity conservation, speaks against deforestation, speaks against forest degradation, speaks about irresponsible agriculture, irresponsible ways of how we manage the environment, how we manage nature, how we manage the surroundings around us. So it's very important that, yes, while we're doing this, we address the subject in unison, in wholesomely, without taking one aspect because it's easy, but also embracing the things that are not popular. Because as all that happens, there is the element of the stick. Because at least for government, what we have in place, the number of incentives to be responsible, but then also you make a saving out of it. Because when you're responsible as an institution or as individuals, it means that you're reducing on wastage, you're reducing on the things that, that would help, push you into incurring more, even if it's just about management of your waste here. Instead of having several trips to Kitezi or to Kisubi, whatever, where they take rubbish. Instead of taking 10 trips, at least maybe you reduce that by 2. It's already a saving on your side. But at the end of it all, this responsible consumption, the responsible ways on how we live, is something that doesn't have to be imposed. Whereas government is doing it at the moment, it's important that even the general public embraces this before we get there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe just something I picked up from the discussion. Government actually, or URA, works with other entities. I've seen it. There's an engagement I was at recently, and I think someone tried to import a net, a fishing net, and thought, this is URA. They don't know what's happening at the fisheries protection unit. But because we have those systems where we integrate, and before you can manage to be cleared by customs, the different entities, UNBS, National Drug Authority, or the fisheries, or all the ministry that has to do with fisheries and agriculture, everyone has to come through to confirm that this thing that's coming into the country
is actually
meets the different people's criteria.
Yes.
So you have the different experts, even at the borders, actually, at the border points, the one-stop border points, the different entities are there. Because I may know more about tax, but that person is the one who knows more about that specific drug or commodity. So they'll give in their input, and we can work together to ensure that we protect the country or advance the goals that the country is out for. So I guess, like we said, we're in the discussion, and those discussions can continue even when we are not on air, so that we can see how best.
Yes, actually, and speaking to that in terms of entities working together, I think, like I mentioned, it's an issue of continuous improvement. And I really want to appreciate URA because especially on issues of import and export, the Ministry of Water and Environment is part of the SCUDA single window, especially for forest products. It's something that had been a big problem, especially before that, because sectors like health and agriculture and Ministry of Trade itself they had already embraced this, and they are having clear controls on how to regulate how they manage imports and exports, especially with the introduction of is it PIVOC? Yes, the pre-import verification. And then we also got on board, and the process was actually so simple. So we are collaborating on a number of things with URA, especially on forest products that, yes, for import, of course, there are so many entry points that are porous. But for everyone that is either accessing like formal markets, they have to go through that system. And it's something that has been continuously like appreciated, because initially it was more of, you know, why? Probably this is from my own plantation, I'm exporting what belongs to me. But these systems also helped regulate that, yes, whereas it's from your place, we also need to rule out that it has not been stolen from you. I mean, like, yes, so this, as we expand the width and the stretch of that, we really see that the SQDA system, whereas we embraced it or were invited to it a bit late, but it's never too late to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And it's helping us to regulate. Then the other aspect is also on the CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Of course, working with customs intelligence here, it has also helped to remove what is legal and what is not, especially for species that are endangered, even those that transit through the country. Because when customs makes these interceptions, they have to verify whether this person has the proper documentation to do that. But of course, it's not like now when you find like the formal business itself, we're not like at every border point. Some of them are not gazetted, but at least whoever is going through the formal process, it's something that we really see that it's now happening. There are more calls coming from URA about, you know, facilitating processing of these imports or exports, which never used to be the case about 10 years ago. But now at least we see that it's happening and there is a lot of support from the entity. But of course, that doesn't stop us from doing more, especially within the domestic trade. Because for export, we've done really so well together. But for the domestic trade, because it's something that, you know, creates, distorts the market, especially if some people are doing the right thing and others are not doing the right thing. Because now, like locally, of course, like I mentioned about government, we have the amended PPDA Act that has, I think it's section 66 of the PPDA Act, which talks about sustainable procurement, especially in public procurement and disposal. And within that, like it's now a requirement that all government procurements have to have consideration for environmental protection and social inclusion, which still comes down to ESG.
Yeah.
And within that, like ideally, you can define sustainability in many ways, but of course, the first one being legal. Like, are you dealing in legal merchandise? And then the rest can follow after that. And with that alone, this is part of the incentive that, yes, if government makes it like all its purchase or procurement is exclusive to legal and sustainable businesses, that's a big incentive. But of course, the challenge still comes with how to do that enforcement. And that's where I think as URA, we can really do so much in terms of, yes, especially URA and UNBS, in terms of, you know, managing such illegalities on the domestic market, because we tend to focus so much on what is for export, yet the biggest percentage of what is traded is actually
Within the
domestic.
country.
So with that, yes, whereas government is doing that, we've done so well in terms of especially the upstream of the forestry value chains, for example, where you're looking at people looking out for planting materials that are from certified nurseries, things that have been produced well, but the same has not been translated, especially on consumption, whereby either as a private individual you say, I must have access to certified timber, because there are not so many players in that space. But institutions like this one, you can make it a point that all your furniture is coming from legal and sustainable sources. The roofing and whatever timber, all those requirements are coming from those processes. So it helps to clean up the local market, so that yes, there is an incentive for doing the right thing, so that it doesn't come off like you're punishing the good people while the illegals are actually having
All right, thank you so much, and thank you for those who have joined in. We have a few comments. We have Abitegeka Alan showing us that he's on the call. We have Regina Namugera who's saying wonderful conversations on environmental sustainability and climate justice. And then we have John Sonic who's saying that he greatly likes the conversation. So keep the comments coming in. I'll keep reading them as we go on. So now we come to the URA person. I think you've been hearing Gen Z has told us, what he expects of URA.
Yes.
He's also mentioning, Issa has also been mentioning good things anyway about how URA is working together. And he mentioned that domestic taxes, there's more work to be done. And we have you representing the department. But before we get into that, there's something that Gen Z said. Gen Z, as you educate the masses and sensitize them about things to do with going green, we would also like to extend some taxpayer education to you on how URA's mandate works. So Noah, briefly enlighten Gen Z and many others like Gen Z who may not know how collection works. They might be thinking that we collect and put in our pockets. So you need to...
to you guys several times. We wanted to work with URA, but this was just a blessing that came. Then I had to say, let me meet them physically.
Okay, so let him first enlighten you on when the money is collected. Where does it go? How is it used? How does everyone get some of it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Josephine, for having me once again. URA's mandate is to collect tax and advise government revenue sources. That is our core mandate, collect. But also on the sideline, since we advise government, we also receive proposals from you that we take towards our mother ministry, it's Ministry of Finance. So we receive proposals from people like you, Youth Go Green. We submit them, we discuss them, we analyze them, and if accepted by Parliament, they become. So the money we collect doesn't go into our pocket. Of course, the money goes into the consolidated fund. Every point URA collects goes into the consolidated fund, and after budgeting, the budgeting process that is done by Ministry of Finance, and it takes it to Parliament for discussion. They apportion the money where they want it to go, how it will be used. So, but we are divided. So I've been, if that is okay, I've been I've been listening in my colleagues on issues. And I think URA also has a hand indirectly how it drives the environmental sustainability agenda. And how we do it is VAT. So, of course, now I had an education institution, of course, a non-for-profit. So one of the things we give you, we exempt such organizations. We write to URA, a non-for-profit education institution, and we give you an income tax exemption. So that money goes back into the business of teaching Ugandans how to be eco-friendly. And on top of that, of course, you talked about something of financing. Most of, if you look at our acts, our tax laws, we have many organizations that are listed. We call them listed institutions, and these are our development partners, like Danida, USAID, JICA. You know, they work with us. So normally we exempt their money. When they bring in money, we exempt them. So in that way, all the money they bring in can go to development, can go to these programs, the program, but also we don't stop there. In amendments, you have seen the recent amendments. Right now we have removed taxes, VAT on electric vehicles. Of course, VAT is value-added tax.
Yes.
For our listeners who may not know, we have we have put exemption income tax. That means when you make money, we allow you to reinvest it in the business. For companies that invest in biogas, and they turn a profit, right? So in that way, they grow. So that's URA's way of saying that we with you and we working with you to see that we save our environment. We giving exemptions to manufacturers of electric vehicles, of course, they get employment to the youth that you're teaching, and on top of that, we ban. We help to enforce. For example, for timber and all that stuff. Right now, Uganda, under our East African Community tax laws, we prohibit the export of timber. So in that way, they might not straight away lead to like changes straight away. But if people who cut our trees lack money, they'll think of better ways to do business. Maybe they will go into other trades that are eco-friendly. If we prohibit exporting of charcoal, so that helps. And also we have expanded our reach on border points. URA right now is on many border points. He has created many border points and has worked with the security agencies to see that we curb those vices. So indirectly we help. And on the other hand, we have created many new incentives. For example, you see many Ugandans have been using charcoal, but right now, gas.
Yeah.
There's not a VAT on gas. The liquefied gas we use for cooking. So that you have seen there's been a deduction in price.
Yeah.
Or those refills,
Yeah.
from 130 to 100. Then that is, of course, a share of Total will say it's on them, they have done it, and all, but that 18% URA has removed. It's really reduced, enabled the reduction of price.
Yes, but let me just ask you that. Like now, for me, I have a grandmother in a beam there. And you know, according to the statistics, you both gave us a statistical view that 80% of the women in rural areas still depend on charcoal.
Yes.
And now we are telling Ministry of Water and NFA and NEMA are saying, you must stop cutting trees, without first preaching to these people an alternative which is accessible, which is practicable, which also is affordable. You've talked of a gas, first of all, buying a gas cylinder, refilling it. It's like my grandmother down there in a beam who cannot say that he spends 30,000 or 50,000 every month to refill a gas cylinder. When he knows that there is, at least he can go and break his trees and wall without paying any coin. Or else, there are certain alternatives which he knows that he access. You know, we have been hearing a lot, even during the Renewable Energy Conference. They are preaching, we need to embrace gas cylinder, gas. But before bringing this, selling for us this cake, have you convinced the person down there in Karamoja, in Gulu, in Lamo, in Chirura down there, that please, we want you that you leave cutting down trees and you embrace gas cylinder. And the person said that, how much is a gas cylinder? Yes, I like what Kenyan government have done, giving affordable, giving free gas cylinders to people. But our issue is the prices of this gas cylinder and feeding them. Cannot favor someone down there in a village. He will not accept, saying that he cannot even afford to buy a kilo of meat or even beans, and he say he remove 50,000 to put it in refilling a gas cylinder to cook with what? So that's the question. Which really?
Okay, I think.
Yes.
Can I
Thank you.
just
You can chip
interject and also make a few clarifications?
Yes.
Of course, from Noah's submission, I think yes. I think we're mixing up a few things. In terms of course, there is government policy every year. Parliament discusses tax bills. Of course, at that point, because URA as an implementer, you've done so well in implementing these laws, but we can't give it to URA because you already mentioned that you have a mother ministry. Because if it's government policy, but of course you also have the institutional responsibility. You keep this building, whatever, all your premises running. In that alone, you have a carbon footprint. There is a lot that you're doing that you can do as an entity. Things that are unique to URA. Now, without necessarily saying that, yes, we reduce tax. Surely that is someone else's, yes. But where we can do more is in terms of enforcement. Because you'll find, as ministry, we are not as readily available everywhere in terms of enforcement. But then you can use our requirements to demand, do you have this to be operating?
Yeah.
And some of these joint operations, help a lot. It helps to improve our understanding of how you work, but also your understanding of how we work.
Yes.
But still, going back, what I wanted to clarify is the issue of ban on export of timber. Ideally, the customs treaty does not ban export of timber. Actually, if anything, it's supposed to open the borders such that we are operating under the same customs federation. You get it. But what we are saying is the ban is on a certain level of processing and also on how these materials have been produced. In the engagements that we've had recently with the CG and the Policy Committee on Environment, which is chaired by the Prime Minister, we received guidance that actually those who are doing the correct thing and they are sustainable, that there will be accorded an additional procedure code. Because what I wanted to indicate is that, yes, not every timber, not every forest product out there is illegally obtained. There is what we call commercial forestry. And speaking of revenue generating practices, that even in the area of forestry, there is a lot that can be done sustainably. And it's continuous because forestry is a renewable resource. So even when you talk of charcoal, currently we have a team in the field. We have a joint project with the Food and Agriculture Organization. They actually are certifying charcoal production. So there is we have on market certified charcoal. That ideally when there is a ban on movement of charcoal, there is a condition has it been produced? Because even within our development framework as a country, we have a provision for planting and management of bioenergy forests. So some of these are basically for that purpose, to provide, say, charcoal. And this is a space where so many people can get employed. So it's not generating revenue for purposes of paying tax, but also generating revenue for purposes of employment.
Yes.
Because if people are not employed and they are not earning, ideally it becomes a social risk in terms of safety, in terms of, so it's something that I needed to clarify that not all forest products, and people should not be shy about forest products or trading in them. When we still had game here, we would have charcoal on the shelves. Charcoal imported from Namibia, from South Africa, on the shelves in there. Something we can also do. Like as long as we have a traceable value chain that actually that this charcoal came from this stamp, they've followed the right procedures, because under that arrangement, what we're doing is also promoting efficient production of charcoal. That currently the ordinary kilns where someone goes into the forest, cuts down what they didn't plant, what is planted by nature, as in they cut down and produce, you'll find like actually the efficiency is like 30%. Now we are promoting kilns that give over 60% in terms of return, in terms of yield, meaning you don't have to cut as many trees to provide the required quantities. What matters is having a management plan that shows I'll plant so much, harvest after this time, and then replant. What makes it renewable and sustainable is the cyclic nature that with offtake, when you find market, you have the motivation to replant. And as long as that is happening sustainably, it's what we want. But we don't want to suppress demand. We just want to ensure, like I mentioned, responsible production and consumption. So someone shouldn't be guilty about using charcoal if they are doing it the right way. They shouldn't be guilty about cutting down a tree, because in forestry, in commercial forestry, there's what we call, it's actually harvesting, it's not cutting. Because you've planted, the time comes to harvest and make a return on that investment. So it's not wrong for people to trade in these businesses. And actually, those are some of the revenue generating enterprises or practices that someone can actually embrace as long as they're doing it the right way. Yeah.
So,
Thank you. So just before that, I think that answers your question. Ochero, Gen Z.
Yes, and actually maybe to speak to him, that government has actually been giving out free gas cylinders, though it's coordinated through, though it's through the Ministry of Energy, because even the subsidy, at the end of the day, even when we are promoting sustainable forests and bioenergy forests, ideally we also need to contain and suppress the pressures by allowing the responsible entities of government to remove tax on these alternatives, to promote those other alternative things like gas. There is also Fumbisayaka in Ministry of Energy, where there is tax exemption on where yaka is used for cooking. I mean, these things are not from outside the country. They're actually here in the country. We are doing them. What we need is the rollout such that there are so many people. And with education, of course, it comes down to like people appreciating, changing their attitude, their mindset. Because someone feels that if, say, for example, Kalo is not done on the 3 stones. Exactly. But it's just in the mind.
They even complain that that the tea which is made with percolator is not nice. You need to use
so it's a continuous process.
Yeah, it's a continuous process, and that's the mindset change. And I think that's where also Youth Go Green comes in. Yeah. All of us have to keep putting our hands together. We all have to work together.
Yeah.
Everyone covering what they can. So that's why you see, like URA, we have this URA TV. It's what we have at the moment, and it is better than not doing anything about it. So if we keep talking about it, someone is going. Our hope is that even us here, there's something you're learning, there's something you're going to change. So how much more for the people who are watching us? And then you keep on going. I like to call what we do here the spreading the gospel. So we usually spread the gospel of tax. One day you're against it, and then we talk about it with you and you understand it, you find that it's not so bad if it's done, a certain way. So even like you mentioned, you're starting with the children. Personally, it's very hard for me as a person to litter. So I'll keep my rubbish. I'll even pocket it. I'll even put it in my bag until I can find a dustbin. I noticed something you did with the bottle, putting the cover into the bottle as part of the bottle. So that's part of it. As it seems small, but if more people pick up on it, then it becomes a big thing. And then something you mentioned about the carbon print, is it the carbon footprint of URA. For example, the building we have, the URA tower as we call it, it has a lot of things inbuilt in it to curb on some of, or to make it
on the footprint.
to
Yes.
reduce on the footprint, or to make it more sustainable. For instance, it has more windows so that we use less of
SC.
the SC or the light, or
The
you know,
lighting.
bulbs and lighting. It has sensors such that when people are in, the lights are on. When people are not in, when it kind of gets dark, the lights are on. Something like that.
I
So those
actually
are
also
some of-
noticed that, like with the smart sinks.
Yeah.
Like ideally, I mean, it reduces wastage.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things actually, like, yes, of course. Even with this, just plastic, like, I mean, even working with this company, you could recycle your own plastics.
Exactly.
Whatever you produce from here,
And our youth are making this, turning
Take it
this
back, yes.
plastic into pavers. This plastic here, they make with pavers, which are used for building. This plastic, you see them. And that's why we have a campaign which we will be running with Uganda Kingdom, which is say that Obuchupana was saying.
Exactly. So that's the kind of conversation we are interested in. So let me just read a few comments. I'm still going to stay holding these tickets so that those who are watching us
Can win
can
them.
stay tuned and win them. So let me read these comments and then I'll talk about the criteria and then we can get back into the discussion briefly. So we have quite a lot of comments, and this is very exciting for us because it means that there are many other people out there who are interested in this topic. And so we have Alfred Kusima saying, I love the shift and trajectory Uganda is at in terms of moving the greening needle and appreciating green enterprises. Ultimately, if we must see a difference in revenue sources from a happy populace and constituency, URA must enable the green enterprises to take off. Very fundamental, we wish to see a deliberate drive to resource allocation by URA to such undertakings of their CSR budgets. Keep going, friends. Maybe a little bit of a comment to that is allocations happen with Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Development.
I can add something. to
But no, I
that.
can add something to that.
Also on the CSR budgets, you saw in June we planted trees. We had a drive, Go Green, where we planted trees around and also on stations. So we have it. We really do something.
We're doing something as much as we can, and bit by bit.
But I think what Alfred is saying is eventually those 2 tickets can become pressure cookers. For example, someone can win a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Like the way you have the 2 tickets, it can be a pressure cooker, it can be something
Solar
smart,
panel.
something green.
All right.
Yes.
I'm sure my bosses are listening. Some things are beyond my pay grade. But these are to support our URAFC. So I guess that's why we're giving these out today. We have Edward Opio saying, great discussion. I have a great proposal for an environmentally sustainable compliance tool for businesses in communities across suburbs in Uganda. I'm just curious, Issa, if someone has such a proposal, where can they direct it?
Yes. There are 2 ways to it. For example, like I mentioned, of course, government has different ministries, different sectors, different mandates. So depending on the details of what the proposal entails, if it's addressing the energy needs, for example, because as Ministry of Water and Environment, our main entry into energy is actually biomass energy, which we find as, it's renewable energy, but how do we sustainably do that? But when it comes to other energy sources beyond biomass, then the conversation changes to the Ministry of Energy, and they're doing quite a lot in that in that aspect. But if it's about green, as in green in terms of nature, it's about biomass production, yeah, whatever. It's yes, Ministry of Water and Environment.
All
And I
right.
think yeah.
And they mentioned businesses, so does that tie in Ministry of Trade as well?
Yes, I mean, like I mentioned, all these enterprises, the green enterprises, or whatever. I mean, it's all business. There is so much, even within export trade. Of course, currently, like our law doesn't have a provision for, say, export of charcoal. But then working on amendments that, yes, if we get to a point where this is packaged, because there is a lot of opportunity in terms of, you know, in terms of market for charcoal in the Middle East, in China, in different places, but even within the region, because if we've been able to export packed charcoal, I mean import packed charcoal, and you have it on the shelves here, imported, yet it's locally produced as well, then ideally, why not also take advantage of the regional market? Yeah, so.
All right. And then we have Benon Juko, someone's namesake, saying this is really interesting. I love the energy. And we have Alfred Kusima again saying that if this kind of discussion had started 10 years ago, we would be very far as a country. Asante Sana URA and Government of Uganda through the line ministries, departments, and agencies. And then we have Ecolit Daniel Hubbard saying taxing charcoal is very good initiative, but what have you put in place for our village brothers who can't afford a gas cylinder and refilling it? And I think this was the same concern that Gen Z Ochero had. So I guess that's good engagement from the people.
Yeah.
Just before we can get back to you, Noah, the 2 tickets are here. So the criteria is that the first relevant question on any of our platforms relevant to this discussion that will challenge this gentleman here will win this ticket. All you have to do is mention your name and the institution whether it's where you work or where you go to school. Just mention your government ID name, the one which you shall use to claim it, because you might say I'm Jojo, and then you come with an ID saying Josephine, and we will be confused. So please mention your government ID name and the institution where you are coming from, and ask a relevant question. Our teams are watching social media closely to see the first 2 people to ask questions. So Noah, back to you.
Yes, again, going back to Mr. Issa, on the pause, yes, you really made it clear. We're enforcers. So being enforcers, okay, we work with many agencies under the trade program, the tax registration expansion program. We work with we work with UNBS, work with Ghana Investment Authority. So we try to educate. We have buses. We try to educate taxpayers. We just don't go there to collect presumptive. We try to educate them of some of the incentives that government has provided and made available. For example, right now, use of ethanol, I think, will become cheaper. And talking about small businesses, you can see right now that we have many people selling gas cylinders. Before it was just find it at Total, but right now we find individuals. I think these are incentives that indirect, of course, through our education to taxpayers, and also trying to enforce on hope other ministries like you on, for example, being on many border points. We try to cover and make the work, those that work commercial, benefit. For example, if they are fighting illegal deforesters, it is bad for business. The prices go down and everything. But if we, on the border points, we everywhere, we're working with many agencies in trade, it helps in one or another.
It's actually working.
Yeah, it's actually, thank you very much for that. And also right now, when you go to our offices, especially collecting offices, service centers, you'll find a desk that does not just talk about URA, but it has a placard which says, "Ask me anything about business registration." So things like that. We have a department policy that helps to review people who request for guidance on exemptions, who want guidances, people who are going to do businesses that feel they are entitled to some incentives, like incentives we've talked about, solar, importation of solar, importation of machinery, and they want such there are no taxes at importation. They write to us. So with having such a department, also some impacts, because taxpayers know where to write. If I write to CGIB responded, we have timelines that you have to respond to taxpayer within 30 days, such stuff. So it helps if my friend here comes, defense, says, I'm an education institution, non for profit. I don't want to be taxed. I want to reinvest this money to teach kids how to be environmental friendly, which has also helped our sisters now get scholarships. So the one who got scholarship at Oxford, Nakato?
Vanessa,
Nakate,
and Sarah.
So through
Those
that
are
program,
all Youth Go Green,
Oh,
the
that's
climate
good.
activists.
That's good.
People want to put money in his project. It's easier for them. They write to us. We have this money. We want to put in this. It's a non-for-profit. So yes, we do not. And also, the proposals, we receive them, but also we make them. We make it, of course, we listen to the taxpayers daily. We're on ground. So we listen. It means the finances on ground. It's that we're on ground. So that's why I say that, we want to plant trees. Please give us try to get us. There's now the thing of tax carbon credits.
Yeah.
It's coming down. We're trying to find a way how to put it into tax or propose it to the ministry. Since one of our mandates is to advise Ministry of Finance on revenue sources. So it's not all about tax, but yes, we enforce that, but we're doing our level best to see that we win.
But before advising, by then, this is what we was trying to discuss, having this discussion last time when I was talking with the Oxfam and other agencies.
Yeah.
Especially we are trying to address this also to NEMA. They were saying that there is no money, there is this. I tell you guys, why are you saying that there is no money in our country? For me, when I move around this country, I see that there is a lot of that. The reason why this is why it's called as the Pearl of Africa, because they saw something more than what? Just the beauty of the country. They have seen that we have very many resources that we can get out of this country. For instance, you see that the youth make up a population of 78%. And 78%, you find that out of this 78%, there are over 58% of them, 57% of them involved in agriculture.
Yes.
And you see that these agricultural practices that they are doing also, they are not something which is commercial. This is something that they just do it for survival. For instance, just recently moved to a place called Mpambire, if you move there, near Banga Forest. These young youth, they are involved in a lot of things which can generate income. For instance, for URA, if we give them information, because let me tell you that, Josephine, for us, what has killed us in Africa, more than HIV/AIDS, more than Ebola, more than even COVID-19, more than any malaria or cholera, is ignorance. Because right now I'm learning a lot of things that is saying, I'm learning something that Issa is discussing. But where do we get this information? Where do you find the Gen Zs? That's the reason why the government are saying that, Gen Zs are into talk things which are not. These guys, they don't have information. The only thing is that they go to TikTok, because they're idle, disorderly. What can someone do when he has no information? You are still talking about your advocacy moving with your buses. Let me tell you that your buses even scare other people. Let me tell you today. Why? Other people who are tax culprit. He sees the URA bus moving and he will just start hiding. But why can't you bring like these people, Like for instance, Youth Go Green has a population of 2 million youth who are registered under the umbrella. Bring them. You have trainings that you always conduct. Pray to these unconverted ones. Say, do you know what? URA is doing A, B, C, D. Like China that came up with the TikTok. China, they came up with the TikTok not like to show how they are enjoying life or what, but they came up with the view of promoting their local technology, promoting what the young people are doing. But for us in Africa, we change it in other way, looking not only that, people should know what I'm doing, or maybe my life is changing, or what that, which doesn't really add meaning, even though. So, what am I driving to? You have this population who are unconverted, especially they have the energy, they have access to smartphones, they are all over social media doing videos. Why can't you tell them that? Now, you people from Mpambile, you're living near Mpanga Forest. These are people who are making drums. These are people who are making these hide skins. These are people using forest products to do something. But the problem is that they are cutting these trees down and they are not replacing. That's the big issue. And these are very good species for us in the country to trade, even to do export that can bring revenue to URA. Get these people. Don't scare them. They say that people, we appreciate the work that you're doing. But we are looking at a young person who has not gone to school. He has not studied, but he knows how to cut it down a tree and change that tree into a drum or into something which he can sell it. Why can't you get this person? Change their mindset. Say, okay, every tree you cut, we can give them access to NFA. Please, you cut one tree, plant 10 in each tree that you cut. You go and you get anything, you do that, replace it. They have even land. With these people say, we have land, but the problem, we went there and interviewed them. At first when we went there, even the first went away, they thought that we were from what NFA, we had come to arrest them. Then they said, no, we are young people. We have come to say with this guy how we can help each other. Because you young people need a living. We know that right now, even you cannot go to school because of certain things. But what they told us that for us, we do these things for a living. We sell these drums, we get money, we pay with our siblings at schools, we do with other things. But then we ask them, do you pay tax or what? He said, why should we go to URA to ask about these things? Because we know that we'll just get headache and all that. We don't want to. They're all saying that's because they are ignorant. They don't know that these things which you're sharing with it, they exist. That even there is you can file even for a return. Filing return, which is very easy. They don't know this. And if you come down, you say, look, Gen Zs, we have this, which is a provision for you. Now, out of your green, because that's a green enterprise that they are practicing, out of your green enterprise, this is how you can benefit, and this is how we can even promote your products. Like, for instance, if the Ministry of Water comes in, we have now that new concept of carbon trading, which is coming in place. These are people who will embrace this. Then we can change this 64% of the unemployed to a very big revenue for URA. That URA will not advise the government that please to Yambe go and borrow for loans. You will not have in that capacity, because we would be picking every small dot that we have within this country to help to operate. Because I know that you're doing, yes, according to your job, you need to do it. We don't blame you. We need to do it, because at the end of the day, Parliament is going to ask you how much have you collected that we are planning for. We need to ask Ministry of Finance, please, we want money to build the roads in Karamoja. We want money to construct hospital, and you need to do it. But only your discussion, don't leave it at only these agencies. Calm down. Ask this youth. They have brilliant ideas. They can share with you. We see this and this, how to get these resources. And it will be something which is really impactful for agents, because we are also part of the government. We cannot run away. That's why you cannot always shoot you, because shooting you, I'm shooting myself. Because I'm still a Ugandan, I'm still operating in this country, and I need to benefit out of also the taxes that I pay. So how can I support you? I can give you my knowledge, then you use it to get this revenue, which is very easy. That will not see the young people when they see URA will scatter in the bush, like those days when I was young in 2000, when they were still using that way of collecting tax. So that's what I just wanted to address.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another
Josephine.
thing I would like to mention is that the issues you're raising
Yeah.
are the very essence and the very objective, or the thing that we achieve by having this discussion. Now we know that there are those youth who are
Who run
creating.
away?
No, not the ones who ran away, but now we know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we will plan for it. And not to harm them, by the way.
Yeah.
URA, we in Kuala, you know what people say, the long URA of long ago. Personally, I don't know about the URA of long ago,
Long
probably
ago
because
was
I'm
really-
still studying. But now we are here and we are a different breed. We seek to educate first, engage, which is what is happening.
Yeah.
And enforcing is the absolute last resort. When we have tried everything.
Everything else.
Yeah, it's just like children when they're growing up. Your parent will first tell you, "Don't touch that thing." They'll first tell you, and say, "Don't touch it. You'll get burnt or you'll get hurt." And then that one moment comes when you actually touch and you get burnt, and and they have to enforce now. Maybe they'll slap you, or I don't know what they do now. We have gentle parents and all that going on, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
So also
Plan the
as your
parents.
we want to first educate and then engage have these discussions. People tell us what they think. Then you have the likes of Noah and his division business policy, who are thinking, they get all these things, they write them down, they discuss them further, they take them to the ministry, and we keep improving. And that's why you have amendments every time.
Yeah.
So now that we've engaged you, we know about that. Another thing we do, like I mentioned, I work with stakeholder relations. We rely on entities like you because when people see URA, they see danger.
Yeah.
And also us, by the way, we fear that danger. We want to talk to people, but you feel like, if they see me in my uniform, it might not end the way I intended. So we work with the likes of Youth Go Green. You go to these people because they're already your friends. And then you tell them, but we have our friends from URA. And then eventually we all become friends. So we work with entities like Youth Go Green and many others that are out there. Before on this show, we've had Climate Hub, we've worked with IRC. They have something called Rebuild, and I think in future we shall have them on board on having such a conversation. But we work with these different entities because there's that fear. We also, believe it or not, we also fear the public because we feel like people are going to receive us with they're not going to be that friendly to us.
And they don't give you information that you need.
Exactly. So we work with you. And we tell you this is how it is. Also, when you've understood, sometimes you can even go and talk on our behalf to those people. But you can also just make that introduction, and say, hey, I have my friend here. And then we can. So it's these discussions that we won't stop having, that we shall keep having, so that we can work together to, ensure that there's
Can I also say something about that?
Yes.
Yes, and actually, I think for me, of course, we can't be pointing fingers that so and so is not doing the right thing. At this point, I could also put it back to Sharon here about the fact that you've reached out to the youth in those places, and what is amazing is that my former office where I used to sit, which is actually a ministry building, is where Youth Go Green sits.
Yes.
So you will not have done those youths a favor when you come back and sit on that information. Because what happens, especially now, I'll talk on the side of customs, they have threshold on what is taxable and what is not. And also building small businesses. There is the element you talked about of business registration. So within that space alone, like ideally you register business for people to appreciate that you don't have to, like not every registered business is supposed to pay tax. You talked of the simplest, which is filing returns. I mean, ideally they could go there just to inform people that actually, like, you just need to do this for us to understand that actually, I mean, you're operating below the threshold. But coming to my own turf about these youth that are doing drums, and because surely that is something I know Mpambire, but of course when it comes to where they source this wood from, because for the time that we've been together, I mean, the opportunities even in that space. I talked about, of course, we grew up to the thinking of you cut one, plant two, cut one, plant 10. But what guides forest enterprises is actually a forest management plan. Like these trees have a rotation that, like in your own lifetime, you can actually plant a tree and harvest it and use it for what you have to use it for. It doesn't have to be that, you know, because someone has cut down a tree. The issue is about sustainability. That sustainability, where is that sustainable source that you're getting this from? Because ideally, that's something that will never run out. We've been like talking about oil for almost 2 decades now, but oil will get out of the ground and it will get exhausted. But trees will not get exhausted.
That's true.
Farmland will not be exhausted. We just need to make it sustainable in terms of how it continuously produces. So I want to put this challenge to you about the youth in Mpambire, because it's also my job to promote forestry, to guide the public. And like I mentioned, it's a continuous process. Like Josephine has just mentioned, like it continues, like the Lord's Prayer for us with Rabiba.
Yes.
Yeah, we have Al-Fatiha. It's been here for almost 1,400 years, for over that period. So ideally, because the human soul is weak, you keep you know, falling back. But it's important to be continuously reminded. So I think it's very important, like look at the scale at which these youths are operating, and even still, even within NFA itself, like the land, there are provisions for licensing. There's even where this licensing is exempted, like is lifted to allow people to operate depending on what they are doing. That actually you can actually do these enterprises in there as long as it's sustainable, it's traceable, and we know who is operating. Because the idea is to rule out the illegals, the people who are cutting without permission and you know, and cutting from a forest. But ideally, these are trees that can be planted in a forest. They can be planted around the home in form of boundary planting, even in the middle of a garden. Most of our indigenous trees are not like eucalyptus and pine. Like they can coexist with food crops, with all that. So we can do that. Since time immemorial, like families, households used to plant the backcloth tree. And whenever a kid is born, especially where I come from in Binyoro, when a kid is born, the day they come out of the house, they plant that backcloth tree. A kid grows with that tree, like knowing, and that drives their motivation to multiply the numbers, because backcloth was booming business. And yes, it continues that way. So I think you're not helping these youths when you get the information and sit on it. Because ideally now, where you stand, you're beyond activism. You're into doing work. Nearly, you can be that bridge. Because we're doing a lot of things together, but now it's really not good for me to just find out through something that has not been presented. Because it's part of planning for forestry. To see that we have many of these. These are potential exports. We facilitate trade to other countries. There are species that I mentioned about the CITES, protected through that Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. But as long as the source is clear, our job is just, and you don't pay anything for an export permit. Your job is to declare the source, and we process paperwork for you, so that whoever receives this in the other country bases on this documentation to allow you access to the market, or to allow you entry. And you'll find that when they do these things, we facilitated export of guitars. Like we have wood that is made, the wood that makes guitars. Like as long as you can trace the source, and they go, they export. There is a youth group that exports, I mean, for some time not come back, but at least a number of occasions we facilitated them to export guitars to Canada. And Surely, and that's what makes us happy. So even with these youth, as you do these forest management plans and do that, I mean, you're trying to widen the tax base. And when we support them, then they can graduate into the taxable
Bracket.
area, and then it relieves those of the few who are paying the heavy taxes. By when it widens, it means that you don't have to charge so much to the rest of us. So I think it can be sustainable in that space, even for agriculture. It's possible. Like they don't have to continue doing subsistence. The president is promoting the 4-acre model. I know many youth can't access the 4 acres, but ideally, even with less than an acre, the number of enterprises in that space that someone can engage in. What matters is being fully available and fully committed to that enterprise.
Yeah.
Because as long as you give it your all, surely it should work for you. It should yield results.
Yeah.
So please, my door is very open. I only close it because the wind through the window hits it on hits it. But I close it, but it's open.
Yeah.
That's why. But it's as well as, I mean, it's not locked.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very important that we do this. We continue this discussion. And I want to thank URA for this opportunity, and still coming back to the issue of, I'm glad this is a smart building, and it's something that we can do more.
Yeah.
Beyond the building, there is the fleet. Ideally, now there is a tax exemption on electric
cars.
vehicles, or I don't know what it speaks to the hybrid vehicles, but ideally, that is something that even in terms of addressing URA's carbon footprint, that yes, changing the fleet itself, ideally, it's because as a country we've adopted a low carbon development path. Like ideally, I mean, we can't demonize our oil because we have it. There is a principle, the oil first in, first out. Someone cannot prevent you from accessing your own resource, yet they've been thriving at the same for so many years. So
Yes.
while we grow, just like it is for the forestry enterprises, as we build the base, we want to make sure that there is a separation between what is legal and sustainable from what is not. So sometimes because of the speed at which the market moves, you find like you have to put a ban on everything in order to sort out what is right and what is wrong, and isolate those who are doing right and build them, promote them for others to build on those. But at the same time here, I mean, you also do printing, you have paper, these are
Yeah.
trees.
Yeah.
Ideally how we do that, but where everything else has been done, then we come into the forest enterprises that include planting trees. We talk of carbon enhancement, providing the carbon sink, but ideally what it means is that for a tree to grow and become timber and become everything, it's actually taking the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and converting into biomass. So when it converts it into biomass, that's what becomes wood. So if that wood is turned into a table like this, for as long as it's a table, then like that carbon is not out there. Like you've picked it from there and stored it here. So that enhancement, if it continues standing as a tree, and as long as it's green and manufacturing food, you're cleaning the atmosphere. So we embrace such partnerships, and yes, we embrace such partnerships, and you know, ideally for you to come forward, we also want to document what you're doing. You planted trees. We have a database for tree planters, and we attribute whatever you planted to you. So even when we are reporting against what Ministry of Finance has given us, or Parliament has appropriated to the ministry for trees, we report on ourselves, but also report for other entities to say that this contribution, URA, because we have national targets and commitments, that URA or Youth Go Green, whoever, they've done so much in this space, and it will be yours. So you don't have to do it and keep it to yourself. We also need to be acknowledged for these things. So I thank you, and
Okay. We just have a few questions. And the first one, again, because the questions also kind of tag to the ticket, so we have our two winners, and I'm happy that one is male and one is female. So, you know, what is it? Equal opportunities.
Inclusion.
And inclusion.
Regina Namugera is Marvel.
So Regina, though she sent first, she didn't ask a question. She commended.
Well, she has been pushing for it. She's one of the youth in Youth Go Green.
She commended the discussion, but she didn't ask
a
a question.
Mm.
So we have Edward Opio, who has asked a question saying, kindly clarify on the tax exemption on environmentally friendly products. And then the second person, the winner, is Sonia Kuhumra from HISP Uganda, who I think is asking a question that I think Issa could help us on. Has the government created a system that clearly shows the geographical, environmental, and real-time climate changes that can be used by these foreigners as they come to our most valuable export, which is Uganda's climate, as stated by Dickens? Did you get the question, or should I repeat it?
Yes, maybe you could.
Has the government created a system that clearly shows that geographical, environmental, and real-time climate changes that can be used by these foreigners as they come to for our most valuable export, which is Uganda's climate?
Yes, I think if I understood the question right, of course, I can start by mentioning that, you know, climate, in terms of climate and climate change, is not real time. It's the disasters that are real time. Or it's the disasters that are real time. But in terms of climate, it's something that is gradual. It changes over time. Because you could find like what we are suffering from right now is something that is as a result of the Industrial Revolution many years ago.
Yes.
But in terms of real-time information, yes, there is real-time information on weather through UNMA, now a department of the Ministry of Water and Environment, the Department of Meteorology and Weather, and it provides real-time seasonal information on to guide tourism, to guide agriculture, to guide all these elements. And then there is also real-time data for like 6 hourly to guide fisheries on the lake in terms of direction of wind and whatever, the rainfall, and then also the aviation industry to guide the you know, movements, flights, and that.
Yeah.
But about climate, surely it's an observation over time. Like, but at least whatever it is about Uganda, like it's just out there for everyone to know what Uganda is good for, from the nature in terms of biodiversity and in terms of the climate itself, or the, you know, yes.
Okay, I hope that answers Sonia's question. And then kindly clarify.
VAT exemption.
Yeah, on the exemptions, yes.
Exemptions, eh?
Yeah.
On environmental friendly products.
Yes.
Okay, but before I do that, I wanted to say something on the taxpayers who fear us, according to Dick. Some of the ways we try to get to them, because it's important for them to know that they can access us.
Yes.
For example, if maybe those people who are in family, they fear the bus, they can ask questions to the commissioner, who's the commissioner, and look at the news. You know that there's that section of people every Tuesday.
Yes. Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
These are people who sometimes don't have access. They are making their drums.
Yes.
Yeah, so we try to also make sure there are different avenues, which is what you're
There's a
talking about.
commissioner. We have also, like you, for example, you invite us to talk to them, of course. Then we have that one. We have seen that in many workshops. You see there's a desk for URA. I tell you workshops, Wuma, there was a table. Everyone who comes, we try. We try to it's not, we're not there to collect, we're there to teach.
Yes.
There are booklets. If you've been down, you've seen booklets everywhere. You can get a booklet, read about it, read about which tax you should pay. In many, if you go to many service centers, there is that first desk which you call a service desk. you come with any query, you filing returns as refused, when it will help you, show you. We also in our IT we have tried to improve. Now they have to generate auto-generated VAT returns.
Yeah.
So there are many ways we really try. We have the contact center. I think those people have
The
phones.
lines that are even running through.
For Gen Zs, we have WhatsApp. Just WhatsApp say I have a problem. This is my team. We look into it. Okay. Those want exemptions, guidances. We have the portal URL. You can send touch point, your touch point. But of course, I want to just have that out that really we're trying to
just to
reach
supplement
everyone.
what he has said. When we are done here, I, as Josephine Kabisa, I'm going to take you to the tax education division in person so that you can tell them everything about these youth whom they need to educate, so that you live here with that one solved. Yeah. So Chigwela, we have
Or even arrange.
We have been
arrange
waiting by
to
the
go there.
URA because since last year we wanted to work with URA, you guys, because we had a lot of things that the youth, the young people, and some of even the young people who are passionate, they're coming up with their CBOs and they don't understand the aspect of what filing returns. And we look at that, we have an entity. Why can't we have like an MOU with URA so that we see areas where we can what also support their work? Because
Don't
we
worry. Molecule source. You're at the source. MOU, where we are right now, where we are, the legal department is above, the taxpayer education is below. We don't even
So
have to
you'll
use
be up and
the
down.
lift to just where do you want to start from? You can start from down, go up, whichever. Molecule source, and these problems have to be sorted. And this is, by the way, the way URA now works.
Yeah.
We have to solve your problem. Yeah, so let's allow him to answer the question so this person also doesn't say we didn't solve their problem. Kindly clarify. Edward Opio, kindly clarify on the tax exemption on environmentally friendly products.
Now, it means Edward, some of the environmentally friendly products we have that are exempted, we have solar on importation and VAT if you're doing normal business. That's why you've seen many things solar. When I talk about solar, I mean the solar, the panels, I mean the solar heaters, I mean the solar fridges, those things. And also we exempting the electric cars. I know right now they're expensive, but the due course with Karuma also coming in, the chargers, we exempting the chargers. If you wanted to do the business of charging station for electric vehicles, that is a good one right now. There's no VAT on it, both at importation and here. So other things that are eco-friendly, of course, we will say ethanol stoves. We have those cooking stoves that use ethanol. Ethanol is made from sugarcane, all that stuff. We're trying to because we have a lot of sugar canes. So in the cut, we can use some of that. We have also the liquefied gas, of course. It is exempted from VAT, so it's lower in price, and I think it's a good product. For now, it's a good product. It saves on the people who use it. At least if people were cooking water on charcoal, at least they use
We need the mix.
Hey,
It shouldn't be one single bullet. We need the mix.
all right, and also we have what can I say? But also we support investors who are going to set up these businesses by giving them exemption. For example, people are going to hydropower, solar power, biogas. We enforce, okay, we guide them. So this exemption 10 years income tax if you qualify with the capital employment of citizens. We try to give those. So if a person comes and wants to create a biogas factory, I think we can give those jobs. As we give him the exemption on income tax, we give him exemption on VAT, stamp duty, so it creates jobs for those people. And with time, they know about more taxes, and also they can create their own jobs. So there are many other things, of course, we're looking at, but majorly, those are it. Normally, they're running between solar, gas, electric products, some of the electric products, Yeah, those are some of the things that we give.
Do these exemptions apply to, say, like
The normally domestic
no pressure
wise,
cookers, especially like because I mean that's one item that the public has actually not uh, appreciated as they should. Because if you have a gadget that say reduces the cooking time for beans from 3 hours to less than 30 minutes, surely now there it doesn't matter what the cooking energy is, whether it's firewood, whether it's charcoal, electricity, because you've actually compressed the cooking time. And in that case, you've saved time, you've also saved on the energy itself. So some of those products you might find like, you know, ideally it's not directly related to
The clean
maybe
energy
renewable
from
energy or something, but
It's still
it solves,
environmentally
it's
friendly.
an indirect solution to so many
Yeah.
problems on health, on environment, on you know, energy itself. Yeah.
so as
So as you document
Yeah,
the
liko sauce.
proposals, as you document the proposals, find out whether
appreciate
it's something that is, yeah,
Thank you.
Rest assured. Kusos.
because
And now for him is the
It's
real
the
sauce
sauce
for the
itself. It's the
specific one.
fountain.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So I just want to announce our winners again. And social media, tell Yimba, it's open to everyone. The instructions were clear. Ask a question. The first relevant question, state the name. And most of the engagement we've had is from LinkedIn. And the winners are Sonia Kuhumra and Edward Opio. Please come to URA headquarters, to the Public and Corporate Affairs Division. You can ask for Josephine Kabiesiza. You come with your ID so that we can identify you and be able to hand over your tickets. My bosses have had the other suggestion of next time we should give environmentally friendly
Gadgets or
Ah.
tools or equipment.
incentives for joining. I don't want to call them gadgets.
Incentives.
I don't want
Yes.
to commit the entity without, like I say, some things are beyond my pay grade. So we have shot on the time we declared, but we can have some parting shots and then we can close. This has been a very, very engaging discussion. I can see the passionate people and then the energy of Gen Z. I can only imagine when the whole of Youth Go Green is here.
Building cannot undo.
Yeah, so Noah, you can start us off with the parting
Okay.
shots.
Thank you, Josephine, for inviting me once again. This has been really, really helpful, and we hope to take on research more the pressure cookers. For you, it's not electrical, but it's important. And also, we encourage you to invite us to those boys. If they have funds, maybe you're going to give that toll-free number. They call us once in a while. We engage them on taxes. Also, sometimes they fear for nothing, yet we are not even they don't
Meet
they're
the
not
threshold
meet the
or the
threshold.
bracket.
Yes. So we help them with their growth. But on top of that, encourage taxpayers, please, to pay their taxes on time, to file their taxes on time, and to invest, to inquire from URA where they see that the products they bring in, or the businesses they want to enter are eco-friendly, to see which incentives they can get. There are many incentives out there, and this is a new now an industry that really, as I told you, that URA is indirectly driving the agenda for eco-friendly businesses. For example, people dealing with fight gas, people dealing with solar panels. Yes, there's a small advantage when it comes when you don't pay the VAT. There's an advantage compared to a colleague or business person who doesn't pay, who pays the VAT on these products. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Noah, for joining us. We have assured these people about source.
Yes.
So please, everything that has been asked, if you want this recording, we shall avail it. so that you can make sure you capture all the points that have been made and that we can see if these can be considered or implemented going forward. Gen Z.
Oh,
Achero.
Josephine, thank you really for this opportunity. Since when they contacted me, Abiba contacted me, I was not going to come here. But because I looked at that, if I don't come, I would have done a disservice to very many young people
Okay.
who are interested, like for us to bring URA on board. And because we have very many young people who are doing incredible things in institution, like when you go to Makerere, we have students like Shalwa, we have Latif. These are young ladies who are doing civil engineer, but they are changing their civil engineer into something which is environmental friendly, and they're coming up with incredible technology innovations which they need to be helped, they need to be guided, how they can frame all this and come up to work like with UI to understand certain things. Like for instance, our children, the young one, Grace Ninsima and Joshua, these are people who are coming up with apps, climate games. They are coming up with apps which are environmental friendly. They are coming up with innovations which they need to be helped. So with now this relationship that we have started, as you said, we are at the source. I believe and I already know that everything is working out. Certainly, maybe today is a blessing for us to be here. So what really I encourage the young people that, please, the SDG agenda says that, the slogan says, leave no one behind. So we need to work together, because it's not a matter of always lamenting the government tetuyambye, URA tetuyambye. We always tell our youth whom we engage, move away from the book of lamentation and move to the book of Acts. Take action for your initiative. Look for information. Stop being there on TikTok, and you know that you can do better with your life. Our office for us, that we thank God that through the Ministry of Water, they gave us a secretariat for the youth that is it. And we have been working with them. Incredible work, and they're amazing. So as we have started, we are very privileged to work with URA so that we can pass this information to the 2 million youth that we have within our circle, because more and more are still coming. And also another thing, we wrote to you also to come for the SDG run, that's Sustainable Development Goal run, which is on 1st of December. That's next Sunday, next week. As you have said, bring those baskets of yours, bring those brands, bring those tables, put there, because our target is bringing over 50,000 people. It's a good privilege for them to listen to this message, listen that URA is there to embrace this agenda, to promote, because I know that very many don't know that URA has that docket of environmental and ESGs. They don't know. They think URA is about collecting Twagala Center. That's what they know. So, Josephine, thank you very much for hosting us. They say always there is time for talking, there is time for quarreling, as the Gen Z, demonstrating everything, but also there is time also to say thank you. And I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, I encourage you that Oriko Source. Since you even said there's a place where you sit and people can find literature, the other people I'm taking you to, we are going to talk to them so that we see if there's any literature that they can also give you.
Okay.
We are here to solve all the problems that you have raised as much as we can. So thank you. And again, Oriko Source, the run, eh?
Yeah.
When
The
we walk
run.
out, now that one,
I
the
thought-
first one,
oh.
when you walk out like this, the
Yeah.
first person I'm taking you to, talk
Is
to
the
them.
runner.
The one who organizes those things of the run, whether we can come with our banners and our buses.
Come with the
That's-
buses. All is 1,000 people need to come.
So,
and
Oriko
feel
Source, we are just
cricket
going to
of-
take you to all these people. It is up to you and what you shall tell them. But
Yeah.
me and Noah, taking you, small problem.
Okay, thank you, Josephine. I think it's been quite exciting. And as far as environment sustainability, I think I've tried to speak. I don't want to bore people with again the same information. But what I want to say is that, especially I'll speak for forestry, it's a way of life. And the fact that you have tax education and whatever else that you're doing in terms of stakeholder engagement, I think personally I'm happy to come back anytime on certain aspects of forestry, because when you talk forestry, some people think it's about climate resilience and all that, but there is so much to forestry in urban, the rural forestry, in agroforestry. Then you have the commercial that sustains the wood industry. You have forestry in terms of energy provision. You have forestry. I mean, any of that can be looked through the lens of tax for that value chain. So, I mean, you have a partner in the Ministry of Water and Environment. And as I conclude, I wanted to also mention that, yes, as a ministry, we have institutions, institutes, education institutions. We have a college of forestry called Nyabea Forestry College. It's based in Masindi. It's something that, it has a number of packages for short training and long training, depending on what is relevant at that time. Then we also have the Water Resources Institute in Entebbe. Like ideally, when there is need for more detailed engagement, your team can always actually engage there and go and build more of this understanding from there. We also have the School of Meteorology, so among other things. But in terms of outreach, we have two major activities as a ministry. We have the Water and Environment Week that you mentioned. That actually it happens in March. It takes place over a period of 2 weeks, and we invite all partners, like whoever relies on environment and water for their sustenance, ideally to come and showcase some of the products that you have. It happens in the month of March, but the epitome is commemorating three very important days within the water and environment sector. We have March 21st, which is the International Day of Forests, March 22nd, World Water Day, and March 23rd, which is World Meteorological Day. And yes, so during that week, different players in water, in environment, water resources, the
Even
people who do
URA.
solar products and whatever. I'm inviting URA to secure space and showcase as part of the outreach. Then we also have a campaign called Running Out of Trees. Running Out of Trees is a way of simplifying giving back to the environment through at least every Ugandan planting one tree every year.
The Roots campaign.
Indigenous trees, the tree species of Uganda, and that's why I mentioned that, yes, we have that database where we acknowledge everyone's contribution. So it's very important that you don't plant your tree in the dark and keep it to yourself. It's important that we speak for you, because it also absolves us, it exonerates us on terms of giving you a certificate of compliance to the to that requirement on climate change, when you actually prove and show that you actually are doing something about it beyond hosting us. But this is something that we don't take for granted. It's important that whenever there is opportunity, like I mentioned, in the area of forestry, we also have wetlands, we have water resources, catchment protection, we have also issues of wash, water and sanitation. We also have water, sanitation and hygiene. We also have water consumption, like domestic use, water for use, water for production. Among all these other things, like any of those topics can be a session on its own,
Yes.
at least to enable people get out there and understand, and also show some of the products that are benefiting from some of these tax exemptions. And it also comes down to issues of, when we talk of environment sustainability, talk of social inclusion, there is also innovation, innovative production, innovative approaches. So it's something that there is actually a lot that we can do together as a sector with customs, building on the collaboration that we already have as entities. I thank you and wish you the best of the rest of the morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our panelists. You brought so much passion, and of course, you helped us a lot, to learn a lot about the different things that we were talking about today. And to our viewers, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the engagement on our social media platforms, especially the LinkedIn team. They were so active, and I thought that was very, very impressive. So thank you so much for being part of these discussions. I hope you have learned something. I hope that you will pick this up and go and do something in your own space. We don't always have to wait for the big leagues, for the big entities, for the big initiatives. You could just decide what you as a person will do. Like we said earlier, maybe you start by not littering and making sure that you dispose of things well. Maybe you will start by being what we call them, a plant parent. You can pick that plant and parent it and make sure it doesn't die. Please, your parents didn't let you die. Don't let the plant die. So whatever it is that you can do, let's try and figure out something. And don't fear us as URA. We are your friends. We are so friendly. We even have a tax waiver, a November deal for you, Black Friday deal, which will also become a Christmas deal for you. It's called the tax waiver in section 47A, where when you pay your outstanding tax as at 30th June 2023, if you can make that payment before 31st December 2024, you're paying the principal tax. Your penalties and interest will be waived. If you can't afford the full amount, whatever portion you pay, we shall also waive a proportionate amount of your penalties and interest. So please come and change your ways and make sure that you cleanse yourself of old outstanding taxes, and you can start the new year as a new you. Please take advantage of this sale. URA is so friendly, like I've mentioned, and we are gifting you with the tax waiver. So thank you so much for joining us, and please tune in for other programs on our different social media platforms. Have a great day.
Uganda Revenue Authority develop